Report. My name is Heather, and as you can see by today's episode's thumbnail, this is episode 43, the Google search Data Doesn't Lie. And in this episode, we're going to be going over the 2:27 a.m. Google search or Safari search or whatever you want to call it from Jen McCabe's cell phone. And this, of course, is in the case of the Canton Cover-Up to Commonwealth versus Karen Reed. We are currently in trial, and the we're on week 7 now or 8. We're going into 8. And this past week, we had a witness on the stand. Her name is Jessica Hyde, and she is the digital forensics expert. I don't know why I quoted that. She is a digital forensics expert. Um, I don't know why I did the air quotes, but she's very confusing, very hard to understand, and she totally disputes this 2:27 a.m. Google search, which Jen McCabe is said to have had. It's in the Cellbrite data. It came up on these extractions. They were telling the Commonwealth is telling us that it didn't come up in theirs and whatever. And so there we are. We have two sides saying, disputing, or not even disputing. The defense is saying this search happened at 2:27 a.m. We've got the Cellbrite report to show, and the Commonwealth is going, no, 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 no. It didn't happen, and here's our expert to tell you how it didn't happen and how this Cellbrite report, which is used in courtrooms all over the country, like as one of the premier digital forensics extraction tools that there is, this Cellbrite. So for her to dispute the Cellbrite report and for the Commonwealth to dispute the Cellbrite report is huge. Do you know what this means? It could open up all these cases that the Commonwealth has already pursued that were along these lines. Oh, sorry. Um, you know what I'm saying? So it opens up a whole new can of worms to say, oh, the Cellbrite reports, by the way, those are inaccurate. And I've talked about this before, I think, on this channel, or on this, in this topic. Brian Walsh, who was also arrested by none other than Trooper Michael Proctor, is in prison now for taking the life of his wife and dismembering her body and I don't know what he did with it. I think he disposed of her somewhere. So there are very incriminating Cellbrite searches that came up in his Cellbrite report, and so I'm sure his lawyers are going to be like, well, if Cellbrite isn't accurate and you're disputing it, how can we believe that it's true? So there's going to be some repercussions, I think, from the Commonwealth pulling this crap. So let's get into it. Please hit that like button before we get started. It really helps the algorithm. It helps YouTube know what you like. It helps my video get out to more people. And the more people that know about this case, the better. So if you want to share this, feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe. Make sure that people are aware of this case because it's terrifying and it could happen anywhere. So let's get started. We're going to go over a little bit of this Jessica Hyde's testimony. Trust me, I'm trying to spare you the most difficult parts. She introduced herself for about 20 minutes about, her bio and stuff. So we're going to skip all that. She's trying to give us, or give the jury rather, lessons into digital forensics on like this really complicated. She's very wordy. She talks very fast, very maybe, yeah, you know what? I think I have it at 1.5. I'm going to turn it down to 1.25 because she talks fast and it's hard to understand her a little bit. I've got the captions on, so we will use those. It says recording of this webinar is prohibited, but that's not true because they um, pulled the camera feed for part of the morning because there was some jury craziness that morning. Somebody, Judge Canoni, actually dropped the ball there and let a juror walk through the courtroom while the cameraman had his camera panned out, and she was visible on camera. Um, she later was let go from the jury. So I don't know if it was for that reason or what, but there were other jurors that were also spoken to that morning. I think in a total, they spoke to 4 jurors, but just the one lady that was on camera left. But I think it was on her own. She had her own reasons as to why she needed to leave the jury. All right, so we're going to, like I said, I'm trying to spare you some of her testimony and her long-windedness. But I gotta give you some of it. So at least I'll give you a little bit of a background because that helps me skip through. So she is the digital forensics lady that they used, woman, whatever. Um, I say lady all the time. I call my dog Lady as a nickname. But anyways, so she's probably thinking I'm talking to her now. She's sleeping though. Never mind. Um, so this woman is the digital forensics expert for the Commonwealth, and she reviewed both Trooper Nicholas Garino's report on um, John McCabe's cell phone extraction, and also Richard Green's report, which we've read on this channel, but we're going to actually read through it again because it's been a while, and now that this topic is back up again, I think it's good to refresh our memories and take a look and compare. So we're going to compare her crazy testimony versus a nice, thorough, laid out affidavit that we're going to read through. So let's get started. And I keep saying we're going to get started, and I don't shut up. So here we go.
So that would be if your text message included, let's say, a picture or a video.
Now, in regard to your analysis and your ultimate conclusions, in this case, you wrote a report, is that correct?
That is correct.
And within that report, there are a couple of tables and a specific figure, is that correct?
That is correct.
Your Honor, with the court's permission, if I could, I'd like to publish to the jury Table 1 from Ms. Hyde's report.
Okay.
Unfortunately, we're not going to see the tables. It's very annoying because the camera feed was pulled that morning. See, you need all this background information before we get started because I try to give you a summary of what's going on. So they pulled the jury or the camera feed, and they allowed us to use streamers and all of us to use the webinar. So yeah, this is even the court TV's feed, and they use the webinar for the trial. They're like Zoom feed or whatever, which is why we don't see the why we won't see her exhibits, which is annoying.
Ms. Hyde, do you have a copy of your report with you as well?
I do.
Your Honor, with the court's permission, just because I fear it may be a little difficult to see from where she's seated, if she could refer to the table in her
Sure.
report.
Thank you.
Ms. Hyde, what's up on the screen, and I'm sorry, there should be a laser pointer on the desk before you. Do you see that?
I do. Oh, yes.
So using that laser pointer, if you could draw the jury's attention, or direct the jury's attention, I should say, with respect to what are we looking at in this specific case?
Absolutely. So this table here has a couple of different elements that I'm showing in terms of what searches were searched where, and when, and what source of data they came from. So if we look at this first search, I have them in the timestamp order that is associated with the artifact. I want to clarify that we need to discuss the meanings of these timestamps as we go. So this first one that you're going to see is, and I'm just going to reference my paper because of the size, is 0227 and 40 a.m. So that's 2 o'clock in the morning, 27 minutes and 40 seconds. And it is a search for the term HOF, long to die in cold. And that is timestamp in this instance is from the browser state DB, which is right here. The browser state DB is an artifact that speaks to when tabs are moved. So when you're using your browser and you open different tabs, you may have a search that this time pertains to the time that that tab moved. It could be lots of things. It could be you switch tabs. It could be you close the tab. It could be you minimize the application. Depending on the version of iOS, what can be that browser state of the tab that changes as timestamp differs. But what's very special to know about this timestamp is that that is not the time necessarily of the search. If a browser is opened and a single search is made, those will match. However, as long as that browser hasn't been closed, moved to background, et cetera. If that browser has had any activity that happens to that tab in terms of application closing, minimizing, this can update. That is what that timestamp is for. This search term is always going to be the most recent search term in that tab. That means the last item that was opened in that tab was HOS long TI die and cold. We cannot tell by this particular artifact what time that search occurred. It is a high likelihood that that tab was opened at this time because there was another search that occurred at 2:27 in the morning. It was a sports site. I cannot pronounce it. It began with an H. Hockomock Sports. Hockomock. Okay, thank you very much for the pronunciation. Hockomock Sports. There were a couple of searches pertaining to that done immediately after, but it appears that that's when this tab was opened and the first search done there. So this search we know was done by this, and we know that it was the last search in the tab because it comes from this source, the browser state DB. And that means that particular timestamp and search pertains to what has happened with the tab. And that's what allows you to open your Safari browser on your iPhone and then open it on your iPad or your Mac and have the same tab.
So basically, the timestamp she's saying isn't the time that that label or that tab was opened and searched in, or when that search occurred. She's saying it was when that tab was moved or closed or something. So does that make sense to you? Like, why would you have it on the report at 2:27 a.m. You if it didn't happen? I don't get her explanation to explain in a way that basically it's because she had the previous tab opened and so it reverted back to 2:27 a.m. when she searched it at 6, which makes no sense.
That's the function there. This search here, this is really interesting. So at 6:22:49 a.m., we have an entry in CacheDB that is specifically, if we dig into this URL, this is an Apple suggested term. So when you use a browser and you start to type a search you've never typed before, the browser tries to help you and say, are you searching for this? So as the user began to type the phrase in the immediate search after, which is how long TI to die in CKLD, this particular suggestion came up, indicating, in all likeliness, that the search term being typed had not previously been searched, because Apple suggested, instead of a previous search, it suggested how long does it take to digest food. After how long to digest food had been suggested, the user then has a search at that time, 6:23:51, for how long TI die in cold, and that is coming from the mobile Safari plist, the com.apple.mobile Safari plist I mentioned earlier, and the search is also shown in the knowledge CDB. That's commonly what we would expect. We would expect that search to be in both of those, both that plist and that database.
So does that mean that it's a valid search then, if it's in both places, like you said? She's validating it, yet telling us that it didn't happen.
Can I stop you?
Yeah, absolutely.
As far as the expectation of that being in both of those, the plist and the other database, why is that?
That is because the search is not being tracked not only by the plist for Safari, but also by the system itself to be able to do that predictive coding. So in the future, when you start to type how long, it gives you what you searched last time.
And with respect to that, how long it takes to digest food? Based on your analysis, was that a search term that was ever entered into this file?
Correct. The source of that, if you look at this first line where it says cdn2 smooth.apple.com, that's what indicates that this is an Apple suggested term, not a user input term.
I'm sorry, I interrupted you. If you could please continue with the next.
Absolutely. The next search that was done immediately after the search at 6:23, the next search was how long TI die in CLKD. Again, we see that search both in the knowledge CDB and the mobile Safari plist. And then we have, so we see it in both databases. Then, so that's how long to die in cold. Sorry, I was on the next line. Then at 6:24, we get the next search, which is HOS long to die in cold. And we have that search again, both in the knowledge CDB and the plist.
So in all of the data, it shows the house long to die in cold at 2:27 a.m. And then at 6:23 something, it is the how long to digest food. And then immediately following that at 6:23 was the house long to die in sicht, or however she spelled it. And then her second misspelling of her search. And then to correct or to make up for the 2:27 a.m. search, because that's what all these are for, she then finally does the house long to die in cold the second time at 6:24 a.m. So if you needed that timeline, that's how it goes. They have the data for all of this. So I don't know why are, and how are they disputing that it even took place? She's going to say that it doesn't mean that she searched it then. She's saying that she was on that Hockomock whatever sports tab at the 2:27 in the morning, and then when that's so their theory or their explanation to this Google search is that Jen McCabe searched the Hockomock whatever, and then in the morning at 6:23 she opened the same tab and searched House Long to Die in Cold on the same tab. The problem is she searched the how long to digest food, which obviously we know now that it's probably not, it's a new search. She's she just keeps adding new searches that are incorrect to her timeline. And then we have the how long to dissect, however she spells it, and then finally house long. So it is just like a mishmash of searches for Jen McCabe that morning, but we're just going to ignore the 2:27 a.m. So how can we, if they're going to say that, how do we know that any of them are right? If they're going to say that that one was really the Hockomock tab, it makes no sense. Make it make sense, because it doesn't.
If I were timelining this based on activity as opposed to timestamps associated, what I see here is the beginning of a user typing a search, Apple making a suggestion of how long to digest food. The user does not take that suggestion and rather inputs how long TI die in CKLD. They then make a second search of HOS long to die in cold. That search winds up being the last search in the tab, and that is why we see it in the this particular browser state DB. It should be noted that this is in one of those WAL files and not
Because it's the last term that was searched, that's why she sees it at
the raw file.
2:27 a.m. That makes absolutely no sense. Let's listen to that again. Ugh.
Of how long to digest food. The user does not take that suggestion and rather inputs how long TI die in CKLD. They then make a second search of HOS long to die in cold. That search winds up being the last search in the tab, and that is why we see it in the this particular browser state DB. It should be noted that this is in one of those WAL files and not the raw file.
So for some reason, Jen McCabe's magic phone that butt dials John O'Keefe the entire night, um, it also magically reverts searches from 6 in the morning to 2 in the morning, 4 hours in the future. How does her phone know the future? How does her phone know what she's going to search in the future? If it's showing up at 2:27 a.m., it's a search that happened at 2:27 a.m. You can't dispute it. That's her explanation, because it was the last search in the tab. No. I mean, I'm no forensics expert, but that doesn't make sense to me.
And so as far as sort of toward the top there, and I know we'll get a little more to this in a moment, but as far as that reading of 2:27:40 in the morning, as far as the timestamp associated with the search, why would that timestamp be associated with it if it's searched later on in the morning?
Because that table isn't showing the time of that search, it's showing the state of the database. So it's saying that the last time that tab was touched, moved to the background or foreground, was 2:27 a.m. The website, as you search more websites in the tab, that gets updated. So the current state that this is showing is that the tab was moved to the background or opened or some action for the tab at 2:27 a.m. when the Hockomock Sports, I got it right, Hockomock Sports website was visited. And then once the Hockomock Sports website was visited, that tab was in continual use. There are other searches and activity that
Other searches in activity that happened. Yeah, like the house long to die in cold,
The
4
Hockomock
different
Sports
waves.
website was visited, that tab was in continual use. There are other searches and activity that happens. We don't see that happens eventually. This search gets made at 6:23 a.m., this search at 6:24 a.m. That winds up being the last search in the tab. And because it's the last search in the tab, that's what the final update is and the final status.
So when you say last search in the tab in reference to time, in reference to what time specifically?
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question.
Bad question.
Sorry. Any forensics people out there that can explain this better or refute her, rebut her case? I mean, this doesn't make sense to me.
Let me rephrase. So as far as the 227 tab is closed, and then another search done at 6:23. Is that correct?
227 isn't necessarily when the tab was closed. That's in my report. I say that it's undetermined because there's a lot of things that can cause that timestamp to be there, including tab being moved, tab being minimized. I don't know exactly what caused the tab to get that particular entry, but it is not that timestamp is not indicative of the time of the search or any URL that's visited there. That time is indicative of movement of the tab, and the search is the most recent search. So they update at different times.
So I guess my question is, as far as from what your analysis is here, is there any use of that tab between, or is there any evidence or artifact of use of that tab between the 227 timestamp and the 6:23 timestamp?
So the fact that that timestamp exists at 227, combined with the fact that the only existence of this search is at 6:24, means that yes, that particular tab was used after 227 when the Hockomock Sports was searched. I apologize for not being familiar with that name.
Oh, that's absolutely fine. Now, if I could ask you at this point, you had talked about one in particular database having sort of an intricate artifact.
Mm-hmm.
If you could remind the jury of what that is, and if you could explain that.
So the artifact that needed a little bit more explanation and digging was this browser state tab. And that's because if you look at the end of this file name, you'll see it's a db-wall. That means it wasn't in the regular database. It was in the write-ahead log. And
So this is how she talked to the jury with all these big words that like none of them's going to understand. So that other part we understood. She explained it as, okay, the tab that was the last thing searched on the tab, so that's why it came up at 2:27 a.m., which doesn't make any sense. So, but then she starts getting she started out all mumbo jumbo sciency with big words and whatever. And she also talked quite a bit about herself and her credentials. I mean, I'm sure she's very qualified and very smart, and I don't want to say anything bad about people, but I don't agree with her assessment.
to Celebrate's credit, that tool actually parsed the write-ahead log and displayed it where the other tools did not. If you remember before, we talked about write-ahead logs, and we talked about the fact that they can contain data that is both removed from a database and data that's not yet to be committed. And this database, we do not know which that is, but what I did was I manually went through, and that's in the figure, I manually went through and reconstructed the wall files using the Sanderson SQLite tool. And in reconstructing the wall files, I found many. I'll tell you exactly how many if I can refer to my notes.
Sure.
Refer to my notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Approximately 16 instances of that existing in the wall file. Now, what's interesting in that figure is that each entry of something in a write-ahead log gets a unique identifier. So it gets a number, right, that makes it unique.
Are you guys lost yet? Because I kind of am.
Just like each one of us has a phone number that's unique to us, each entry in the database that starts in the write-ahead log gets its own unique identifier. And that unique identifier in this instance in all 16 entries in the wall file is the same, which shows that it's truly only one search, not multiple searches for that search term in terms of what exists in the wall file. So that's the first.
Did you understand that explanation? Because I didn't. If you're a forensic expert and you understood that and can say one way or another if that's correct, please let us know in the comments.
Piece of nuance there, that it only truly was searched one. And you would have to really dig into that wall file to expose that, but I think it was pertinent to know how many times this was searched.
Basically, whatever data she's looking through, her wall files or whatever. she's saying that it shows that it was only searched once when it was actually, I think it was even on her report. I can't find it. I looked all over. I think it was in a Turtle Boy stream, and I'm mad that I couldn't find it. But there was a report that showed that it was a returning website. Like she was returning back to that search. It was not the first time she had searched House Long to Die in Cold when the 624 search happened. So there's that. I can't find it. I can't find the report, but I swear I saw it, and I keep doing this. Like I'll see something, watch something, hear something, whatever. And then I'm like, where did I see that or hear that? And I can't remember. So I try to keep better track for you guys. I'm going to skip forward to, I don't know, she talks for a long time. Um, I suggest if you are interested in knowing more about this, go to either Court TV or somewhere on YouTube. They have the stream and you can watch it all.
You had mentioned earlier in your testimony that you had reviewed both Trooper Garino's report as well as an affidavit from Mr. Green. Is that correct?
Correct.
And with regard to the affidavit from Mr. Green, what, if any, issues of significance did you observe in his analysis?
In Mr. Green's analysis, there is a conclusion that is drawn that a search occurred at 02:47 a.m. on January 29th, based on the artifact recovered from Browser State DB that Celebrite parses. And there are two errors with that. The assumption that that is the time of the search is a misunderstanding of the Browser State DB artifact, because that artifact is not the time of search, it's the time of movement of the tab, as well as the statement that, that it was deleted due to the demarcation of Celebrite as recovered.
And based on the totality of your analysis, your testing, and everything that you looked at in this case, what, if any, conclusions did you come to?
My conclusion is that there was a search at 02:47 a.m. for Hawk Mock Sports. That browser was in use, and there were continual searches due through the night. The phone was, I do agree with Mr. Green's findings that the phone was in use at that time at 02:27. Later, the phone a web search is done at 6:23 a.m. For how long, at that moment, Apple produces a suggestion for how long to digest food. The search is instead completed with how long TI, die, and CKLD at 6:23. A new search is conducted at 6:24 of HOS, long to die in cold, Haas long to die in cold. That search is then the last search that is made in that particular tab. And that's my conclusion.
What, if any, conclusion did you come to in regard to items being deleted pertaining to those artifacts you were looking for?
In regards to those artifacts pertaining to those search terms, I had no evidence of deletion.
May I have a moment, Your Honor?
Yeah. And I think that takes us into a break. We're going to come back and get some of Yanetti's cross. There's a long break, and then the camera feed is back again, so it's a better image or a better view. So now we're gonna I can't wait. Okay, so Yanetti's going to do some cross-examination.
Thank you, Your Honor, and thank you very much, ma'am. I have no further questions, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Yannetti?
Thank you very much, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Ms. Hyde.
Good afternoon, sir.
Ms. Hyde, you just spent maybe 45 minutes to an hour, whatever the time period was, explaining to these jurors what is really a complex set of facts that led you to conclude that the 2:27 a.m. timestamp on that Google search was triggered by the closing of a tab. Did I essentially sum that up correctly?
Essentially, except it's not.
She has really shallow breaths. You hear like you can hear her exhaling in the mic. She's breathing like really fast and really shallow. She's not taking in or letting out a whole lot of air.
2:27 a.m. timestamp on a Google search is a 2:27 a.m. timestamp on a tab.
Fair enough, thank you.
And let me rewind that because I interrupted.
What is really a complex set of facts that led you to conclude that the 2:27 a.m. timestamp on that Google search was triggered by the closing of a tab. Did I essentially sum that up correctly?
Essentially, except it's not a 2:27 a.m. timestamp on a Google search. It's a 2:27 a.m. timestamp on a tab.
Fair enough, thank you. And in the context, or in the course of your explanation, you discussed WAL files,
That is correct.
SQLite database,
Yes.
plist database,
Yes.
knowledge C database.
Yeah. plist is not a database. Just it's a structure. So just a small correction.
Thank you for the correction. Opening tabs and closing tabs, correct?
Yes.
And other issues related to your analysis of the phone extraction, correct?
Would you call them issues? Or
Well, maybe that's a bad word to use. Other elements of
She actually did call them issues in her testimony. I listened and heard her say that. And I knew that he had said this. So I was like, oh, wait, she just said.
it's fair. Fair enough. Yes. Yes.
I'm really not trying to trick you. I know I wouldn't be able to. Would you agree with me that another simple explanation for that 2:27 a.m. timestamp was that the user of that iPhone conducted that search at or before 2:27 a.m.?
Can you rephrase, please?
I'm going to phrase it
What was so hard about that question? He's gonna phrase it the same exact way. Let's try that again.
the same way. I hope I
Oh,
can
repeat
answer.
it. Repeat it,
Sure,
please.
Thank you. Would you agree with me that another simple explanation for that 2:27 a.m. timestamp was that the user of that iPhone conducted that search at or before 2:27 a.m. on January 29th of 2022?
That timestamp is not indicative of a time of search. So the question is difficult to answer because I can't say that that timestamp tells me anything about the time of search.
Okay. So as I take your answer, you're not denying that the timestamp and whatever you get from that timestamp doesn't rule out that the Google search was done at or before 2:27 a.m., correct?
If I'm understanding your question, there was a double negative, so I just want to clarify. The question is if the timestamp could exist because of a search happening at that time?
No.
Or,
I
no,
guess
okay.
what I'm saying is your analysis of the phone does not rule out that the user of that phone performed that Google search at or before 2:27 a.m.
There is no indication of a Google search at or before 2:27 a.m.
But again, I'm getting
She just does not want to admit that it's possible that that is the reason why that's in the data. She just won't admit it.
to whether you can rule that out, ma'am. That's really the crux of my question. Can you rule out that the user of that phone conducted that search at or before 2:27 a.m. on January 29th?
There is a very unlikely possibility based on the fact that there is no evidence that the search occurred before that time. That's just like saying that the user searched for pandas at 2:27 a.m. Could you rule that out? I can't rule out something that doesn't exist.
But there's no evidence for pandas. There's evidence in the Cellbrite extraction for House Long to Die in Cold at 2:27 a.m. That's the difference.
You would agree with me that with regard to your analysis of this phone extraction, you were given very specific instructions in terms of what to look at, correct?
Correct. I had a very limited scope in this analysis.
And who was it that gave you that limited scope?
That scope was relayed to me by Detective Tully.
Okay. And Detective Tully,
Detective Tully, who we cannot trust. He was on the stand prior to her, and basically he in his report had 3 pieces of glass, but yet there were extra, or not glass, but taillight. He had found supposedly 3 pieces of taillight in one of his searches, and yet there were extra pieces of taillight that he hadn't documented or accounted for in his evidence. So they grilled him on that. So we can't really trust a whole lot of what Tully says either.
instructed you specifically to only look at the part of the phone extraction that dealt with the Safari search history.
Safari search history specific to January 29th, 2022. That is correct.
And he instructed you not to look at anything else on the phone, correct?
I looked at related artifacts such as what was being done at that time, the phone being on, the phone being used, but not anything else outside of that, correct?
And you were not instructed for instance, to look at other user activity on the phone, including examining call logs on the phone, correct?
Correct.
And you would agree with me.
So she didn't look at anything else really but what Tully told her to look at, which was this log, this call log, or this search log. And she didn't look at like anything else. She didn't factor in anything else that was in Jen's report or phone extraction other than this small portion of it.
That if you were allowed or instructed to examine the call logs, that could reveal deletion of calls that morning, correct?
Of
Objection.
course. Well,
Okay, the objection sustained.
Thank you.
Any follow-up?
Haha, well, we heard the answer. So, if she had more information, such as call logs and things like that, and was seeing a pattern of Jen McCabe deleting things, then maybe she would attribute that delete because in the Cellbrite report, it shows that Jen McCabe not only searched the house long to die in cold at 2:27 a.m., but then she deleted that search out of her history. So it was not on her phone, but it was on the extraction. So that was able to be recovered. I think we're done with her. So let's hop over to this page here. All right, we're going to go over the affidavit now from Richard Green. So this is the affidavit of Richard Green in support of defendant's motion for order pursuant to Mass R. Crim P 17 directed to Brian Albert, Verizon, and AT&T. They're trying to get Brian Albert's cell phone records for quite some time. This was filed April 12th, 2023. I, Richard Green, under oath, do depose and state as follows. Number one, I am a data forensics expert with United States Forensics LLC, hereafter USF. I am a certified computer examiner with the International Association of Computer Forensic Examiners and hold certifications in cybersecurity, computer crime investigations, and digital forensics and computer investigations. Number two, the following facts and information are based on my own personal knowledge, and I could testify competently thereto if called upon as an expert witness to do so. I declare that the following is true and correct to the best of my knowledge, and that I have no personal interest in the outcome of this case. Number three, USF has received inter alia, that means among other things, so this and other things. So USF has received inter alia cell phone data images of 2 iPhone devices which were forensically imaged by the Massachusetts State Police in connection with this case. They have been entered into evidence as follows. USF evidence number followed by description, owner, and serial number. So the first one is John McCabe, and the second one is John O'Keefe. Number 4. The data images have been processed and reviewed with Cellbrite Physical Analyzer, whatever version that is, and Axiom Forensics. Additional forensic tools utilized include Belkasoft X, Sanderson SQL Lite, Forensic Explorer, and CellHawk by Hawk Analytics. Any times listed have been converted to Canton, Massachusetts local time unless otherwise noted. And that's good to know because otherwise everything comes up like this standard time. So there he's just listing all of the tools that he used to extract and analyze this data. She went through a whole list of things that she used to when she was on the stand, but I didn't want to make you have to sit through all that. All right, so next, the analysis of Jennifer McCabe's phone. That's her iPhone 11. Number 5, I have analyzed the data obtained from the forensic image of Jennifer McCabe's iPhone 11. And before I even continue, remember that Jennifer McCabe testified on a stand that she deleted text messages and messages, she said, messages from her children before she handed her phone over. And oh, guess what? One of her children, Caitlin, or no, what's her name? Allison McCabe, Allie, was Colin's getaway driver. So she deleted all of her messages between Allie and her, and there might have been stuff said about this. I wonder if they have any recovered information, the defense, from the federal investigation. If they have recovered texts and things like that, that would be so revealing. It'd be so crazy to read through all those. 3,000 pages of information they got from the feds. A lot. Right before trial, too. All right, so this Roger Green analyzed the data obtained from the forensic image of Jennifer McCabe's phone using the tools outlined in paragraph 4 above. That analysis has revealed significant exculpatory evidence for Karen. Inculpatory evidence for John McCabe. All right, so her search history. Number 6, in my professional experience, an analysis of the device's internet search history often gives valuable clues as to the user's intent or knowledge surrounding an incident. I conducted a review of the search history information obtained from Jennifer McCabe's iPhone 11 and observed the following significant artifact. An artifact, I think she just explained it. It's like it gives you more information about data, which this is basically it. So, like, it lays everything out, like the date, the time, the URL, all that, the source. That's your artifact, is that like deep dive into that information. So, he observed this from the morning in question. The search term "house long to die in cold" and date and time was 1/29/2022 at 2:27 and 40 seconds in the AM. And there's a URL. You can even see the search term is in the URL. Then it gives you Safari suspended state tab. Or suspended state tab. So it was being used prior, probably, like she just kept opening and reusing that tab for things. And then the state of the particular item of data has been deleted as reported by Cellbrite. Thus, search history information obtained from Jennifer McCabe's cell phone indicates that on January 29th, 2022 at 2:27 and 40 seconds in the AM, the phone's user entered the following search in Safari: "House long to die in cold." A true and correct copy of the Cellbrite information associated with this artifact is attached here too, and we're going to look at all the exhibits. Number 7, in order to confirm, you know what, let's do that right now. Let's look at, I put bookmarks here so we could just hop to it. So where's Jen McCabe? Where am I going again? I don't know. Hold on. I don't remember where I'm going here. Her call log. There's Jen McCabe's call log. Oh, here. This is what I wanted to show you. Sorry. My brain cannot do two things at once. All right. So this is the Cellbrite report. Apple iOS full file system. This is from Jen McCabe's phone. It says 1/29/2022, 2:27 and 40 seconds in the morning from Safari and all that stuff. That's the source. It says "house long to die in cold." And then if you go over here, it says deleted. Yes. So it was deleted by the user, by Jen McCabe. So that's for sure. All right, now where was I? All right, number 7. In order to confirm the accuracy of the search event as reported in Cellbrite, I independently performed a low-level analysis of the artifact found in that data, which was located in the browser state DB wall, which is a write-ahead file. Write-ahead files are temporary in nature and show the location where data is written before commitments to the main database are made. The particulars of this artifact are as follows: location, library, Safari, browser state, whatever. It's got a number, a raw time data, and then time converted to Canton, Massachusetts time. So 222, wait, now it's saying 7:27:40. Which is, oh, sorry, that's not the converted time. The converted time is down here, adjusted to local time. So that's converted to standard time, whatever. Okay, that's why that was not making sense, because it said 7:27:40, but it is local time 2:27 a.m. Thus, I was able to independently verify that the time, date, and fact of the search report in Cellbrite was accurate. So it happened, basically, is what he's saying. Significantly, the Cellbrite analysis further reveals that the 224 or 22740 search for How Long to Die in Cold was thereafter deleted by the user. The browser state DBD or DB dataset contains information about the open tabs in the Safari application. This allows a user to leave the application and then return at a later time to resume the browser session. The individual tabs can be deleted by the user. Here, Cellbrite indicates that the 2:27 and 40 a.m. search for How Long to Die in Cold was deleted by the user. I don't know how that's being disputed, but it is. All right, number 9. I also performed a timeline validation of the 2:27:40 a.m. search by confirming that the device was in use at the time of the search. So they both Jessica Hyde, and this guy, Richard Green, both agree that she was on her phone at 2:27 a.m. She was using it and doing things. So then wouldn't I don't know. I don't know why the data would rewrite over for 2:27 a.m. Like what? Or for future search. That's it. It's futuristic. It knows the future. I just the only way I can explain it. Number 9. I also performed a timeline validation of the 2:27:40 a.m. search by confirming that the device was in use at the time of the search warrant. The following artifacts support that user was interacting with the phone during this period. The iPhone was unlocked between 2:23:31 and 2:31:07. Text messages were sent at 2:25:11 and 2:25:56. 2 screenshots were deleted. One of them was Uncle Brian's cell phone number, contact info. All right, so 2 screenshots were deleted at 2:26:37 a.m. The search for How Long to Die in Cold was entered at 2:27:40 a.m. I mean, it's pretty clear, at least in this guy's report, that that's the order of things. So thus, the data unequivocally establishes that an individual using Jennifer McCabe's iPhone 11 searched How Long to Die in Cold at 2:27:40 a.m. on January 29th, 2022. Number 10. Further review of searched artifacts revealed that the user of Jennifer McCabe's iPhone 11 conducted several similar searches that morning. A true and correct copy of that. These subsequent searches are attached, and those are the other spellings. So the second spelling, the second misspelling of it, and then the third search, which was the corrected misspelling, if that makes sense. So she corrected her misspelled search at 6:24, a minute after she searched it incorrectly. And let's go to, is that in here? No. Hold on one second. Okay, here it is. So this is the second group of searches. So the first time she searched it solo at 2 in the morning and then deleted it. And then the second searches were, here you can see how long TI die in CIKD or something like that is how she spells it, which is wrong. And then this is the second time here she says house long to die in cold incorrectly, but to correct her mistake at 2:27 of searching it. And as you can see, neither one of these were deleted, so she intended for those to stay in her call log and search history and on her phone so the police would see that she searched it at this time and not at the 2:27 a.m. time. So she's just trying to trick all of us. I mean, this is the trial of gaslighting for real. All right, so I don't remember what page we were on. Yeah, so that was that. All right, so number 11. I was also able to locate an additional artifact attached here to as USF3, which was recovered from the Safari cache records and indicates that the user also conducted the following search. At 6:23:49 a.m., how long does it take to digest food? So that was the Apple recommended search when she started searching, and she must have accidentally clicked on it, realized that's not what she wanted. So then she did this other house long in 2 seconds or 3 seconds later. She does the second version, how long tea die in sick, and then finally the house long to die in cold. And what was I just gonna? Oh, um, when Jen McCabe was on cross-examination, Alan Jackson, Karen Reed's attorney, pointed out the fact that both of these spellings, both of these incorrect spellings, will take you to the same exact search. So why you would need to search it a second time after the first time doesn't make sense if it took you to the right page in the first place. See what I'm saying? So there's that. There's just so many problems with Jen McCabe and her cell phone records. All right, deleted calls. We're going to look at that call log too. All right, so I also conducted a forensic analysis of the user's call log history from the date in question. An analysis of a device's call history is useful in determining associates of the user, which may be of interest. A user's call history is automatically recorded and stored on the user's cell phone. The absence of recent historical call information suggests that a user has taken affirmative steps to delete the call history. In my professional opinion, the confirmed deletion of recent historical call information suggests that a user has engaged in efforts to tamper with, alter, destroy, and/or hide information or evidence. Let me repeat that. In my professional opinion, the confirmed deletion of recent historical call information suggests that a user has engaged in efforts to tamper with, alter, destroy, and/or hide information or evidence. You doing that, Jen? We all know you're doing that. So just tell us the truth. Tell us what happened to John if you care at all about John. Come forward. Anybody who was in that house that night. Tell the truth. If you care at all about humanity, you should do the right thing. Anyways, all right, so where were we? Importantly, deleted information is not always recoverable. The call logs artifacts were examined using Cellbright's physical analyzer and are attached here to in USF04. Further analysis was performed with Axiom Forensics, which is just another kind of like extraction tool type of thing. I don't know. I don't know anything about them. I just know that that's what the other chick was using too. I'm sorry, calling her a chick. I call myself a chick, so whatever. I'll find it as an insult. All right, so Axiom Forensics they used, both of which suggest that there were significant deletions of call data by the user of Jennifer McCabe's iPhone 11. So here it goes through kind of a timeline. There is um, FaceTime call data that's recorded, parsed by Axiom. Here we've got no call log data found in call history, but indications of calls found in the Knowledge C database records. So she definitely deleted some calls there. 18 deleted call entries between 5:30:47 a.m. and 8:50:15 a.m. The 6:03:47 a.m. 911 call was also deleted. In her haste to delete things, I think she accidentally deleted that and didn't mean to, because why would you delete the 911 call? Because there's a record of you calling in. So that doesn't make any sense. All right, so next, there were two calls to her sister, Coco, or Nicole Albert, who was in the house with Brian Albert and um, Brian Albert Jr., I suppose. I don't know. But they were in the house, and supposedly Chloe. And Jen McCabe was calling them. So they arrive on the scene about 6:04 because that's when they call 911, and then it's 6:07 and 6:08. There are two very brief phone calls that are answered, even though both Jen McCabe and Nicole Albert lied on the stand and said they were not answered and nobody talked to one another. They just keep denying all of this data. It's ridiculous. So she denied these phone calls, but they're in her call log, and I'll show you that in a second. All right, next is the call to Uncle Brian A, which obviously is Brian Albert, and that's deleted. Normal call log activity found. So let's go take a look at her call log. We're on page 4. Come back. Jen McCabe's call log. A little bit more here. So people's names are or numbers are redacted, but you can see she called John O'Keefe at, let's see, where are we? 1:29, 5:25, 15 seconds in the morning. So she was calling him at 5:52 in the morning, but she deleted it. Does that make sense? Were they still looking for the phone at that point? Maybe. I don't know when they found it because we can kind of assume that that's what all these butt dials were for. So it doesn't go up higher than that, does it? No, time's moving on. All right, so that's where they started, was at here for this log anyways, where she started deleting things. So Tom Beatty, whatever, his daughter and John O'Keefe's niece were friends, and I think John and Tom were friends. So um, Jen McCabe was calling him. So at 5:30, she called him. She called John O'Keefe 5:52. She calls Tom Beatty a couple more times. Then they find John. They call 911 at 6:03 and 47 seconds. But all these calls here are deleted, if you notice. So I'm just going to go through what she deleted that morning, which makes no sense. Next, we've got, so the 911 call, and here's the calls to Coco. I hope you guys can see this. Here, hopefully that helps. You guys don't need to see me. All right, so let's zoom in even more. Perfect. All right. So here's Coco. 911 call right here. Then we've got Coco, who's Nicole, and we can see that these phone calls were answered, and the duration was 9 seconds and 7 seconds. So, I mean, you can say a couple of things, or you can say a whole lot of things in that short amount of time. What I think we hear them saying is because we have um, her muffled on a recording of the 911 call. And we can kind of hear her saying something along the lines of, "Are you coming out to help?" or "You're not coming out to help," or something like that. So those two calls from Nicole to Nicole, 607 and 608. Then we got the Uncle Brian. She calls at 623. It's really hard to read the font, but I assure you it's a 6. 647, she calls Matt McCabe. I mean, why you calling your husband? Why are you deleting that? Rejected. Matt McCabe was rejected. Um, Carrie. So this is when she starts talking to Carrie Roberts, 7:30 in the morning on that day, the 29th. She starts calling Carrie, I don't know, some other names, Tom Beatty, Carrie, more and more of the same people she's talking to, but she deletes everything up until this 8:50 in the morning with Tom Beatty. Why? We don't know, but isn't that interesting? Very, very interesting, I think. It just goes to show there's something fishy going on. Let's go back to page 4. Is that good for you guys? Okay, good. All right, so we did deleted data. Next, number 13. In this case, I was able to further verify that there were additional deletions which were not recovered from Jennifer McCabe's iPhone 11 using Cellbrite by cross-referencing the deleted call entries from Jennifer McCabe's cell phone, the data obtained from John O'Keefe's and Karen Reed's cell phones. So there are 17 calls listed on John O'Keefe's iPhone referencing Jennifer McCabe's cell phone number. Only one of these calls is found in Jen McCabe's iPhone call history, and that particular artifact is listed as deleted, highlighted in green on whatever. I don't know what, let me see if I have a visual for this one. Hold on. Okay, yeah, so this is John's call log, and I believe this is all calls coming from Jen McCabe because it's all the same person that's calling, and the timestamps match up because her last call to John was at this 5:52:15 a.m. So these are all calls from Jen McCabe to John, and as you can see, there were many that she did. I don't know what she was thinking. And then back to Jen's. I bet if we compared them, I didn't look, but I bet if we compared them, there'd be some missing. Um, oh, but that one doesn't go prior, so we can't compare them. But I bet you the defense team has. Guarantee they have. Sorry, let me get back to where we were. All right, so there are 17 calls listed on John O'Keefe's iPhone referencing Jennifer McCabe's phone number, which is what we just looked at. So 17. And only one of these calls is found on Jen McCabe's iPhone call history. Oh, that's why. And that particular artifact is listed as deleted. So all these calls to John, all these calls to John, except for the last one, were deleted in her call log. So that happened. All right. And why does he vacuum when I'm on my thing recording? He knows. know if you guys can hear that, but my boyfriend's like a vacuum freak. Don't tell him I said that. He doesn't watch this, so he won't know. We got shepherds, so German shepherds, so that's why. All right. So there were 8 calls listed on Karen Reed's iPhone call log referencing Jen McCabe's phone number attached. So we have Karen Reed's phone call log too. Of these 8 calls, only 2 are found in Jen McCabe's iPhone history. So if we go back and look, there's a Karen Reed phone log, and only 2 of these apparently appear on Jen McCabe's call log. I'll take their word for it. We don't have to go through all of them. So yeah, there were these 2 Karens right here. So those looks like the only Karens. She called Peggy, John's mom. She called Peggy that morning too, or afternoon. They spoke. So yeah, interesting what the data tells us. So where's this other chick getting the data? The one that who Jessica Hyde, who we were listening or watching her testimony. I don't know how much we should trust her. All right, so thus, I was able to determine that certain call log history and data was missing from Jennifer McCabe's iPhone, which could not be recovered using Cellbrite. In order to obtain a complete accounting of the calls that could not be recovered using Cellbrite, I will need to obtain call detail records from Jen McCabe's cell phone carrier and cross-reference that information with the data obtained from the analysis of her phone. So he would need more information, more detailed records. The analysis may lead to the discovery of additional devices that should be preserved and analyzed. Acquisition and preservation should include potential backup sources such as computers and cloud storage platforms, as well as synced devices such as tablets. Okay, let's dive into the deleted screenshot. So 14. In addition to the above data that was deleted from Jennifer McCabe's iPhone, a screenshot of a contact saved as Uncle Brian A, described as home number 3. So it's her home away from home, away from home, with the associated phone number ending in 0888, which he later changed his phone number and destroyed his other phone or lost it, got rid of it. I don't know. He says he doesn't have it. All right, so the number was found to have been created. Hold on. The screenshot was found to have been created 129/608:35 a.m. and was deleted later that day at 12:53:23 p.m. So she was giving Brian's number to somebody or sharing contact information somehow about Brian with Brian's number. A true and correct copy of that artifact is attached hereto as USF 07. It is noted that Jennifer McCabe's brother-in-law is Brian Albert, whose cell phone number has been confirmed and it ends in 0888. All right, or it used to be. So which one was that? The deleted screenshot. I think it's this one. Yeah, so this is the artifact information, all the information that he used to review it. This is the screenshot that was taken that she later deleted that day. I don't remember what page we were on. Nope. Okay. So we read that. Location data. Now, number 15, an analysis of a device's location data is helpful to determine the user's whereabouts during specific incidents. iPhones store various location data with varying degrees of accuracy. When an application requests location data, the iOS responds with what is known as Apple Location Services and Assisted GPS. Some applications may require only regional data, such as weather applications, and other ones highly accurate data, such as driving applications, as in Waze. 16. In an effort to determine the whereabouts of Jennifer McCabe's iPhone on January 29th, 2022, location data was exported into the CellHawk application. So another application that he's using to help him with this extraction. This program allows the expert to filter location data based on accuracy, time, and location. For this portion of the analysis, I only relied on data that had accuracy of 100 M or more. What's 100 M? I don't know. The following is a summary of location events for 1/29/2022. The timing of Jennifer McCabe's search for House Long to Die in Cold has been added for reference. So at 12 a.m., her phone is located in the proximity to the Waterfall Bar and Grill. At 12:13:46 a.m., accuracy improves significantly and indicates that she is leaving the Waterfall Bar and Grill. At 12:18:25 a.m., she arrives at the Alberts residence at 34 Fairview. At 1:47:17 a.m., accuracy improves significantly and indicates that she's leaving 34 Fairview Road. At 2:03:13 a.m., it appears she makes a right turn onto Lawrence Street. This is the turn before Pleasant Street, which intersects with John O'Keefe's residence. So why is she driving past John O'Keefe's residence around 2:03 in the morning? It could possibly be that she was returning Colin home, maybe. I don't know. Colin lived on the same street. Um, but what's her face? Allie McCabe was, as stated on the stand, she testified that she's the one that took Colin home, but she did it before 12:15 or whatever, but their timeline doesn't match up. All right, so anyhow, Jennifer McCabe's phone is somewhere near John O'Keefe's residence at 2:03 in the morning. At 2:04, she's located on Leonard Way, and the course is reversed. At 2:12:38, she arrives at Jennifer McCabe's residence. At 12:20 or 2:27:40, she searches House Long to Die in Cold, which we know. At 5:39:10, she leaves 12 Country Lane. At 5:46:05, she arrives at John O'Keefe's residence at 1 Meadows Avenue, which, as we know, they went back there to go see to do a wellness check and to see if he came back and to just look. At 5:52, they leave Meadows Ave. At 5:57, she's in proximity to the Waterfall Bar and Grill again. At 6:03, she arrives at the Alberts residence at 34 Fairview. And that's when they arrive and they call 911 and find John. At 11:16:03, she leaves 34 Fairview, so she stays there all morning talking with the Alberts and concocting their plans and schemes to frame an innocent woman. She stayed there till 11:16 in the morning, and that was after they arrived at 6 o'clock. And she was, I'm sure, talking, coordinating things with law enforcement because, as we saw on body cam, I think it was Officer Seraf's body cam. He was the first officer in the stand, and um, it showed Jen McCabe talking to the law enforcement like the whole time. And then a little bit later, we know that after law enforcement left 34 Fairview Road, John McCabe called Officer Lank, Sergeant Lank, and had him come back with Canton Police. Even though Canton was supposed to be recused, he comes to the scene and interviews Jen McCabe again, and all of a sudden they remember, oh yeah, Karen said, did I hit him? Could I have hit him? That's where that came in. And then she changed her testimony on the stand. Even in her grand jury testimony, it was always, could I hit him? Did I hit him? And then in this trial, she changed her testimony to, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. She changed it. Anyways, moving on, health data information, number 17. Data obtained from the health application on Jennifer McCabe's iPhone indicates that her device was connected to an Apple Watch on January 29th, 2022, which enhances the accuracy of the health data recorded and provides for a greater amount of detail. A true and correct copy of data obtained from this health application of Jennifer McCabe's iPhone, which was recorded on the 29th, is attached. And we're going to get to that. We'll compare, or should we? Well, let's let's hold off on Jen's Apple Health. We'll get to that, and we'll do hers and John's at the same time. All right, so analysis of John O'Keefe's phone. I have also analyzed the health data obtained from USF evidence, whatever, which is the forensic image of John O'Keefe's iPhone 11. When a user enables the application to record information, the iPhone's operating system can record a broad range of activity and health-related data. The following information was obtained from O'Keefe's health application between 12 a.m. and 6 a.m. on January 29th. So from 12:11 to 12:21, he took 170 steps and went the distance of 96.6 meters. From 12:21 to 12:24, which is about the time that he arrives, or well, all 12:20, 21, 24, that's like right about when they arrive to the Albert residence. So he takes 80 steps in this segment of time, the 12:21 to 12:24, 80 steps and 87 meters, 12:21 to 12:24. Again, he ascended and descended, either or, ascended or descended, 3 flights of stairs, 3 floors. So he definitely was not doing that in Karen's car. He had to have entered the house, which um, reminds me, it's a good segue into Nicholas Trooper Guarino's report. We'll come back to, we're almost done with Richard Green and we don't have much more to go, but it's a good segue here. So, we have all these steps. He's not just walking in circles in the front lawn or walking the block. He would have gone in the house or tried to go in the house, attempt to at some point. And there were stairs that you needed to go up to go to the front door. So if he did go up the front door and didn't go the side door, he would have had to ascend stairs. And then if he went downstairs, that's another set of stairs. And then who knows if, taking the body out and moving his phone, that might have been another set or something. I don't know. Whatever it was, he ascended or descended 3 flights of stairs, according to his Apple Health Watch, or Apple Health data, which should be relatively accurate. And I'm no car expert, but I don't think a Lexus has a set of stairs in it. So I'm assuming he did this inside the home, which, like I said, brings us to Guarino's findings. So I'm not going to read his whole report, but here it says from number 14, from my training and experience, the enlargement and shrinking of degrees of accuracy of the GPS points are determined by the signal strength and connection to satellites. From these points, O'Keefe could have been inside the residence of 34 Fairview for no more than 3 seconds. So you say he can be there, but not for more than 3 seconds before the GPS points go back to within a 4-meter degree of accuracy until the morning when he is discovered. So you think he just did some air stairs up and down in the sidewalk. I don't know where they think he got the stairs from. Also of note is that O'Keefe's health data in Cellbrite shows him ascending and descending 3 flights of stairs at 12:22:14 a.m. The native locations in Cellbrite and the cached locations in Axiom both show O'Keefe's phone location by the intersection of Oakdale Road and Pinecone Road in front of 36 Oakdale Road, which is approximately a little over a half a mile away from 34 Fairview. Okay, whatever. His health data also recorded 36 steps at 12:31 in Cellbrite. There are no GPS points at that time in Cellbrite or Axiom, and Axiom shows no movement of the phone. Again, this is just his report, so I don't know the data or whatnot, but that is what he says. That's what Nicholas Guarino is going to testify to, I'm sure, this week. We're probably going to have Guarino. We gotta have the ME. The ME's got to be the last person, probably. And who else is the Commonwealth missing? There's still several witnesses that they haven't called yet, but they said that they were going to try to close the case or end their case this week, possibly Tuesday. But the jury's not in on Tuesday, so it'll probably be Wednesday. There's no court because of Juneteenth, so it would be Thursday. We wouldn't know, or they won't rest their case probably until Thursday, if that. Um, and this is one of the people we need to hear from is this trooper Nicholas Guarino, who is going to tell us why he thinks John O'Keefe's phone couldn't have been in the house. He's saying the GPS points are within meters of a degree of accuracy. So to me, that just means like there's variance, and he's saying that they're on the far end of the variance or something. So it wouldn't be accurate, if that makes sense what I'm saying. Sorry if I'm not making sense. All right, so we need to hear from Nicholas Guarino, and we definitely want to hear from Richard Green. So Richard Green says these steps happened, ascended, descended 3 flights of stairs between 12:21 and 12:24. So these are the competing expert witnesses that are going to speak about these things. So we'll see. We'll see if the Commonwealth can sway me at all. At this point, I am so fully on board with it's a conspiracy and cover up. There's no other way to look at it, in my opinion. But anyways, so 12:20 or 12:31 to 12:32, he took 36 steps and 25 meters. Notably, although the time ranges indicated above record total steps and or elevation during the relevant time period, it is impossible to determine whether the steps taken and or elevation gain was recorded during the entirety of that time period or for only a portion thereof. So did it happen at like the 12:21 or was it the 12:24? Did it all happen then? Did it happen and it spread out? Like there's no way to know that, but we do know within that time frame that's when it happened. All right, so a true and correct copy of the analysis of John O'Keefe's health data is attached. We'll go through that. I subsequently analyzed the location data associated with O'Keefe's iPhones store various location data with varying degrees of accuracy as explained in paragraph 12 above. In order to analyze the location data associated with this case, the location data was exported into the CellHawk application. This application allows the expert to filter based on accuracy, time, and location. For this portion of the analysis, I only relied on data that had an accuracy of 100 M or better. So he's talking about his um, level of accuracy as well. So, I mean, the degrees of accuracy for the GPS and for all of this, I mean, they have, I have no idea what I'm talking about. They have the tools and they know how accurate these things can be. So I'm sure that they have the ability to articulate it much better than me on the stand. Based on my analysis of the location data obtained on O'Keefe's cell phone, it appears that the first location ping in the neighborhood near the Albert residence occurred at 12:19:33, Location data indicates that John O'Keefe arrived at the Albert residence at 12:24. Bam. So location data confirms he arrived at the Albert residence at 12:24 and 28 seconds a.m. Conclusion. In order to properly investigate O'Keefe's death and I don't know if I can say that word or not. It I'm monetized now, but I don't know what the rules are. So, anyways, in order to properly investigate O'Keefe's death and recover critical information surrounding what transpired on January 29th, 2022, and the days thereafter, I will need to obtain substantive text and or iMessage communications, search history, web browsing history, location data and or cell phone data that may have been deleted during the relevant time period by the individuals in question. I can only obtain this information by creating a proper forensic image or extraction of the cell phones themselves or any potential backup sources such as computers and or iCloud storage platforms as well as synced devices such as tablets. Basically saying he needs more information and he can get it either from the actual phone itself doing an extraction from it or from a cloud storage platform. Once I have created a forensic image of the devices and or data, I can run various tools and conduct a forensic analysis of the information to obtain the critical information outlined above. So again, this is his affidavit in support of getting these cell phone records. And they want Brian Albert's cell phone record too, which the court denied. I don't know how they got John McCabe's. Eventually they did. But it was a battle. It's a battle for anything that the defense team has been trying to do in this case. Number 21. Furthermore, cell phone carriers independently maintain call detail records, including call records, SMS text, and MMS records. Say that 10 times fast. And data usage records, cell tower and cell phone location information, and subscriber information associated with their customers. Thus, cell phone carrier records are necessary to independently establish whether any substantive communications may have been missing or deleted or otherwise unrecoverable using forensic tools to analyze the device themselves. Whereas here there is significant evidence that persons connected with this case have made attempts to delete, destroy, alter, and or tamper with information or evidence. So let me repeat that again. There is significant evidence that persons connected with this case have made attempts to delete, destroy, alter, and or tamper with information or evidence, meaning Jem McCabe. That's you. That was turned over to law enforcement. It is absolutely necessary that I be able to compare any data uncovered through a forensic analysis of the individual's devices with their corresponding cell phone records, their carrier records, sorry, which are independently maintained in order to ensure that all relevant data is uncovered and there is not information that my tools may have been unable to locate and or recover. Signed, sworn, under the pains and penalties of perjury, this 11th day of April 2023. So as promised, let's go down to the Apple Health data. So this is Jem McCabe's steps. So around 12:18, I'm assuming that's when she gets to 34 Fairview. She's at 48 steps. At 12:20, she's got 33, then 1 step, then 4 steps, then at 12:35, this is pretty significant. She goes 148 steps out of nowhere, seemingly. I mean, she does it earlier, but they were at the bar here. So, I mean, that could be like saying goodbye to people, walking in and out with your coat, doing the rounds, going to the bathroom, whatever you got to do to say goodbye. So I'm not shocked by 154 at 12:10. But when we get to the Alberts, you're not going to be doing that many steps inside their home. I keep doing that. So you're not going to be, I can't unhighlight it. All right, so you're not going to be doing that many steps in their home. That's why she's only doing 1 step here, 4 steps here. Like, you might get up, but you're probably going to sit, you're probably going to relax, whatever, drink. I don't know, you might stand. People are standing, but most of the time when you're in your home, you're not like on the go, go, go. So 148 steps at 12:35 is kind of, to me, I think like she's pacing, or she's in a panic. Something's happening at 148 steps. So that's steps. Her distance here, I mean, no surprise, it pretty much tells you again, she goes 105 meters at that time when she goes all those steps. So it's significant right here at 12:35, in my opinion. Her floors, she did not go up and down any floors, except when she got back home at 2:23, and then again when she came downstairs from her bedroom at 5:32, and then all these others are later in the day. So nothing really significant for Jen's floors. But let's look at her heart rate. I think this is really interesting. So her regular heart rate, I mean, it fluctuates, it varies. And depending on what you're doing, it's going to vary also. But when do we get to, oh, 12:07, no, I'm sorry, 12:02:27 a.m. Her heart rate's 89 beats per minute. But then we get to, is that the right time? Yeah, 12:49:34 a.m. I guess nothing there. Well, oh, her heart rate does drop. So I don't know if that's a significant drop, but it does drop. And then, oh, look at that. It drops again after her 2:27 a.m. search. Um, it's just interesting. So, okay, she's pretty even keel for most of the time. Da, 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 da. We're scrolling through. Now we're getting to 4:30 a.m., 4:40, 5 o'clock. Oh, wait, look at this. 6 a.m. We start going at 6:02. We're at 91. And at 6:42, we're at 122 beats per minute. And it stays elevated. 6:48, 6:53. These are all probably times she's talking to law enforcement, guys. What do you think? All of these times here. So the 122, 121, 118, 119, that's not a normal heart rate. That's a lot. And it's obviously more than her regular heart rate. So look at that. So these are the times when law enforcement were still at the house. Her heart rate was through the roof. It goes back down though after they leave. And then, wait a minute, she's got to call Link back and say, let's frame this innocent woman, Karen Reed, and put it on her. So she calls him back. Her heart rate's elevated. It starts to become elevated, even more elevated later on during the times when I think he would have been there doing the second interview with them. So you can see it goes up 102, 100, 100, 106, and this is all 9:07 a.m., 9:13. So this is when Sergeant Link was back at the house. So she's still at the Albert residence, and this is when Sergeant Link was back at the house, and her heart rate is again through the roof until 9:55 a.m. It's the last time that it spikes. Isn't that interesting? What does that tell you about her data there? It's interesting, huh? So let's go to John's steps, which I find also interesting. We start the night at 12:11, so that's about when they're leaving the bar. He's got 170 steps. At 12:21, that's about when they're arriving at the Albert residence. That's right at 12:24 was when Richard Green said it was that they arrived. So this is the end time. I keep forgetting there's an end time too. So this is that same segment of time. That same segment of time, the 12:21 to 12:24, when he started arriving in the Albert location. According to Richard Green's location data, that's when he starts to arrive in the area, and he's at the house at 12:24. And John takes 80 steps at this time. Then at 12, from 12:23 to 12:32, I'm sorry, 12:31 to 12:32, he takes 36 steps. And then what is this? Oh, that's when okay, so his last steps are right here. These 36 steps are his last known. Why is it doing that? And we don't even know if it's him or if it was somebody that had his phone. So, but see how sorry. See how fast this happened? Whatever this is, this thing that happened, the incident that happened inside the Albert home, it happened so fast. They arrive at 12:42, and then between 12:31 and 12:32, his last steps are taken on the phone, which those might not even be his steps. Because if you think about it, it could have been that someone picked his phone up at that time, but we don't know. So those are his last steps between 12:31 and 12:32, last recorded steps. May or may not be his. Following that, we see 432 steps starting at 6:04 in the morning. So who had his phone at 6:04? They called 911 at 6:03. So they didn't get so his phone starts moving at between 6:04 and 6:11, and it goes 432 steps. So whoever had it was either pacing or I don't know, they had to have been pacing. I think I think Jen McCabe still had that phone, or it could have been someone in the house. I don't think Jen had it. I take that back. I don't think it was on her at this moment, but it was either with them or inside the Albert residence, and they were waiting to plant it or something. Because we still don't have the chain of custody as to where John's phone came from. So I don't know how they found the phone. I think it was said that Carrie Roberts found it and gave it to one of the officers, but she doesn't remember who. So again, no chain of custody. So we can't find out what happened to the phone, who found it, where it was found, nothing. Nothing was recorded or written down anywhere about this phone and finding it. I'm getting mad because it's such a shitty investigation. I'm sorry, but it is. I'm sorry for swearing. I try not to. All right, so at least on here. In real life, I swear like a sailor. So we went through his steps. You see that. And the same thing, we've got the distance, 96 meters, 25 meters when he arrives there, and then the next set of meters are not his because he doesn't have the phone in his possession, but somebody does. Who has the phone in their possession? Where was it all this time? What's the location data here? And who's walking around with it? It's getting all these steps from somebody. Well, meters, these are meters, but you know what I mean. It's registering steps from somebody. So where is that coming from? Is what I like to know. And where's the chain of custody for this? And right here in black and white, you can see that John O'Keefe went up or down, ascended, descended, whatever. Why did my mouse just go? Okay. As you can see, 3 flights of stairs between 12:22 and 12:24. Remember, he arrives at 12:24. So it happened so fast. He gets there. He probably went up the upper stairs, potentially, or went down the basement stairs, potentially. So there's that. He could have gone in the back if they told him come in the back. But we don't know because we don't have anybody's cell phones except for Jen's. and Proctor's, but Proctor wasn't there that night. So that's the end of my presentation regarding the Google search. In my opinion, it happened the 2:27 a.m. search happened. I don't know how it's being disputed. Even the FBI or the feds have been saying that it happened, at least according to Yannetti. So let's close out of here. I want to send you off with a quick little snippet of a clip. So this is the YouTube show Surviving the Survivor. I'm not really a regular watcher, but in fact, I don't watch it, but I'm not really like a fan or anything, but I've been watching recent episodes just because they've had guests on that I like. So I love Ian Runkle of the Bailey, and Brandy Churchwell. So this was a recent episode. It just took place 4 days ago, and I wanted to share a little snippet. Sorry, dogs gotta always get in the way. I'll share a little snippet of what Brandy Churchwell says regarding the Google search. And she has done some extensive research into this. Hold on one second. Sorry about that. Dog needs her blanket, needs to get all adjusted and everything. She always gotta interrupt my show. Just kidding. So Ian Runkle of the Bailey and Brandy Churchwell, she's got her podcast, The 13th Juror, I think, which I think is just like a really clever title. She's done some really extensive research into the the Google search, because she wanted to know about it. She was like, I want to dig deep into this. So she reached out to a bunch of experts and professionals to get their expert opinions. And so here's her explanation as to the 227 Google search.
All, please have Brandy give her thoughts. This will be the final question, then we'll get some final thoughts and call it a show. But please have Brandy give her thoughts on the I think it was 227 Google search. She has receipts. Your take on this, Brandy? I'd be lying if I said I fully understood this, because some of what I understand is that Safari on the phone was opened at that time, but maybe a different search was conducted later. What can you tell us about this?
So I asked because I'm not a tech person. So I'm one that has to call my kid to come over and, fix my internets every time it's, something happens. So I asked a programmer. I talked to actually a programmer, a coder who had worked for Apple, and somebody from Celebrite. And I had a spreadsheet where I put together all of their information and tried to dumb it down as much as possible. And none of them had anything to do with the case. They don't have anything. So I was just telling them, tell me what you can tell me. And without the forensic image of the phone, they can only tell me about how the coding works. So that's what they explained to me. And the way that it was broken down to me is that the way that, Celebrite is always, it's kind of like a cat and mouse with Apple. So Apple is always trying to protect your privacy. Celebrite's always trying to get it. But the thing is, the Celebrite, they can, they're coming up with all this new software, to get all the information off your phone. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they are able to interpret how it was written onto the phone, where it was stored, why it was stored there, that type of thing. The way that I understand it is, the way that it was explained to me by the coder is that it could not have happened that far. It would not say 227 if it happened that far in the future, because the checkpoints where it writes from the WAL file onto the database, it won't let it go that far, even if you wait that long to close another tab, because the checkpoints are set up to be at when the WAL file reaches a certain size, or if there's a trigger action, which would be like closing the tab, or every 5 minutes, if nothing has triggered it, it will have one automatically. So that's why he explained to me that it would not be able to do that. And then the other thing was when she said on the stand that she was Googling it at 623 and 624. She said that she was Googling it and then she stopped Googling because they were moving John, but John had already been in the ambulance for 10 minutes by that time. So that part didn't. And the only reason I went back because of that time frame, I went back and looked at the dash cam to double check, and then pulled, the reports from the.
So, yet another inconsistency in Jen McCabe's testimony about the Google searches and saying that she was doing it when John was still out, but he wasn't. He was in the ambulance at that point. So, just too much is wrong with this case to think that it's all just coincidence. I don't believe in coincidences, anyways.
The EMT and all that. So by the time she said, "Oh, I stopped Googling it and didn't look at the results because they were moving John," John had already been in the ambulance for 10 minutes. So I don't know what the reasons would be. I don't know. I'm not coming up with my own explanations, but that's what was explained to me, and that's what I've still got questions on.
And that's what we should have John Sawicki, if he's still watching, we'll get him on. He can also talk the law in the case because he is an attorney and a former law enforcement officer. Virginia Little, Rob
All right, sorry. That is where I will leave you guys. So hopefully that gave you a little bit more information about the Google search. Maybe you can make up your mind or have a little bit more information and be prepared going into Richard Green's testimony when that does happen. Um, I think Brandy explained it so much better and so much easier to understand. But and I don't know, she's not a techie, so maybe that's why she can dumb it down for all of us non-techies. Ooh, I'm like wheezing. Sorry about that. All right, so coming up next, I'm going to be doing another episode on the Canton Cover-Up, Commonwealth versus Karen Reed. We're going to go over the reconstruction of the incident, reconstructing the incident. There is next on the stand from her, or the woman that we just, Jessica Hyde. There's a man that, I think I'm wheezing. A man that comes to the stand that tries to recreate the incident, and we're going to go over that testimony, and it's laughable. There's a voir dire. There's more of him to come on Monday morning. So if you guys are watching the trial, you can look forward to that, and I'll be watching with you guys. But usually I am in attorney Melanie Little's chat. I'm not streaming it. So hope to see you guys in the chat. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please hit that like button on your way out and let me know if there's something about this case that you want me to dig more into. I'd be happy to. So let me know. I'll talk to you guys later. Thanks so much. Take care. If you've been impacted by a true crime and would like your story told in your own words, or if you or someone you know has been wrongfully convicted or accused of a crime, please write to crimeincourtchannel@gmail.com and tell us your real true crime encounters. Thanks for watching.